Brett McKay here, and welcome to another edition of the Art of Manliness podcast. Well, I am really excited about today's guest. He is the founder and owner of one of my favorite blogs, Steve Kamb of nerdfitness.com. If you haven't been to Nerd Fitness, I recommend to go check it out. Steve does such a great job of taking fitness and health and making it approachable for the average guy or someone who has no experience whatsoever with fitness or nutrition or anything like that. And in today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about the story behind Nerd Fitness and how you can level up your life. Well, Steve, welcome to the show. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Absolutely, Brett. Thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah. So, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about Nerd Fitness, why you started it, what was the inspiration behind it, and why do you do what you do?
Absolutely. Honestly, I started Nerd Fitness because of the tremendous numbers of failures that I had in my past trying to get healthy. I remember it was my junior year of high school. I tried it for my high school basketball team. I got cut. Not surprisingly, I was terrible. I couldn't dribble with my left hand. And I was like 5'10", 100 pounds. So clearly had no business being on a basketball court. However, I got cut and I decided I wanted to start getting healthier and strength training and kind of, kind of build myself up. So I went to a gym and managed to almost kill myself by I loaded up like 45-pound plates on either side of a bench press and managed to drop it directly onto my chest and had to like roll to the left and the right until the weight spun off and everybody in the gym stared at me. Just one of those horrifying moments that I will never, ever forget in my life. So that was the first day I think I ever really tried to work out. And I learned that there's a lot more to it than just walking into a gym and trying to wing it. So I spent the next 6 years of my life trying to get healthy and trying to do it in a way that I thought was right. Like I read Muscle and Fitness and all of those, muscle magazines because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. And not surprisingly, after 6 years, I had very little success and had still no clue what I was doing. It wasn't until after 6 years I finally worked with a trainer, cleaned up my diet, really simplified the heck out of my workout, and had more success in 30 days than I had in the entire 6 years prior. And that's when a light bulb went off in my head. I was like, geez, if it took me 6 years of failing miserably to finally figure out that there's like an actual science to this eating right and working out, there have to be other people out there like myself who don't have 6 years to waste on failing at all these things. So those are the people I wanted to help, people that were brand new to fitness and interested in getting healthy, but didn't know where to begin. Obviously, there are already a billion fitness blogs out there. So I wanted to create my own little niche and speak specifically to a group of people that I felt like I was a really strong part of that community, that niche being the nerd community. I've built my own computers. I love Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings. I'm a huge gamer. And I thought that was my opportunity to create something unique and speak to this group of people. So I Googled Nerd Fitness. Nothing popped up. So I bought nerdfitness.com about 5 years ago and have been running it ever since. It started as a simple blog, and now it's evolved into a giant community of nerds all over the globe that are working together to help each other get healthy. Awesome.
So would you say your typical reader is a nerd? I mean, like what most people would call a nerd, or is it just you have readers from all walks of life?
I think that the strong core is definitely nerdy. And I think nerd can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You can be a bookworm, you can be a political science nerd, you can be a video game nerd, you can be a computer programming or computer engineer nerd. I think generally it tends to be the type of people that spend most of their day at a computer, sitting in front of a desk. They're probably anywhere between 25 and 35. Maybe they just had their first kid, or they're interested in, they're interested essentially in improving their lives for some reason, whether it's because of a kid or they're trying to improve their lives for any other reason, and they don't know where to get started. So it is the 25 to 35-year-old, either male or female, that is interested in getting healthy and don't know where to turn. So they Google something like body weight exercises or how to look like Captain America or how to look like, something nerdy that speaks to them. And often than not, Nerd Fitness tends to be the thing that pops up because who else is going to combine Lord of the Rings and push-ups?
Yeah, totally. And that's one of the things I love about your site is that it's so approachable. I'm amazed by, I've told you this before in our emails, that I'll have people come up to me here in Tulsa and say, hey, have you checked out Nerd Fitness? And they're a nerdy kind of guy. And they're like, yeah, I've never exercised before, but this guy's really got me going on it. That's what I think. I think a niche you definitely filled, because you go to most fitness blogs and you read them, and if you've never done any type of exercise before, you could be sort of intimidated by the content that's put out there. Because you see like these like chiseled guys, and like the stuff they're talking about could be really intimidating. So it might put off a lot of people who otherwise would need that sort of information.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's not only that, but I think a huge portion of fitness blogs are really, they use such predatory marketing tactics that it just drives me crazy. Like, you need to buy this particular workout or buy this particular piece of equipment or this supplement, or you're not going to get healthy. And like they really prey on people's insecurities, and that just drove me crazy. So I wanted to create a place where people knew if they came to the site, like, you don't need to buy anything. You can work out in the comfort of your own home, and you don't need to buy any supplements. You can do it with normal foods. You just need to start identifying certain things that you need to change. And, I'm giving you these opinions not because a company is paying me to say them, or because I get a cut of this particular supplement, which is why I'm promoting it. Instead, it's like, look, my goal with this is to get you healthy, and I want to do it in a way that you're not intimidated and that you feel like you are not getting taken advantage of. It's more like, yeah, this makes sense to me, and this guy is telling me things that make sense, and he seems like a guy that I could relate to and a guy that I can trust. And when he, if this is a workout that he recommends and here it is for free, like, okay, that's something I can I can try out. And then they'll quickly learn, like, oh, I can do it. It's not that difficult once you kind of simplify and take away all the scary stuff.
Yeah. So being approachable, kind of targeting the beginner. I mean, what are some other guiding principles of the nerd fitness philosophy? I mean, what makes you what else makes you different from some of the other fitness blogs you might see out there?
And this one is tough because it's not sexy to sell clean eating and proper diet. It's like, oh, you need this workout because it has muscle confusion, or this one targets this whatever area of your body. It's like, no, it's not it, guys. Like, focus on building proper habits and understanding that your diet is going to be 80% of your success or failure. And most people don't want to hear that. They want to hear that they can do this one workout for 20 minutes a week and then go back to drinking Gatorades and eating bagfuls of chips and still get that ripped 6-pack abs. It doesn't work that way. It's like, no, guys, put your focus on eating better. Put your focus on making some small changes here and there, and then find exercise that makes you happy. And I think that's a big one. A lot of people, when they think exercise, they think running on a treadmill for 4 hours or going to an aerobics class with a bunch of people in spandex that they don't belong in, and that they just immediately get turned off by all of these things. So I want to let people know that if you can make some changes to your diet, and again, diet is going to be 80%. The other 20% comes from things that make you happy. For me personally, I'm not a huge fan of running, so I don't do it. And everybody asks me like, "Oh, when are you going to run a marathon?" I'm like, probably never. Like, and it's not my thing. I love strength training. I love things like gymnastics and parkour. I like exercises that, to me, don't really feel like I'm exercising. So I encourage people to find things that make them happy, that get them off their butts, out the door. There are, whether it's like ultimate frisbee or yoga, martial arts, live action role playing, where people like dress up in like this, coat of arms and chase down each other across the field. Movie, was it Role Models? That stuff actually happens, and that's awesome. I've never done it, but I would love to. But really, it's finding things that make you happy and putting a strong emphasis on making healthier food choices. And the way I look at that is more like, do the best you can during the week. So I try to take care of myself 5 days a week with, really clean, proper eating. And then on the weekends, I have no problem going to a bar and having a couple beers and eating wings and pizza, watching football. And then I get right back on track come Monday. So, yeah,
that's a good philosophy to have, because I think a lot of people think, oh, if I want to get in shape, I got to do this 24/7. I can't enjoy life anymore.
Yeah, that's crap.
You
can definitely mix the two for sure.
Totally. And another thing I love you talk about a lot on the site, and it's something that resonates with me, and I think it's maybe one of your guiding principles, maybe I'm wrong, that whole idea of it's not where you are, it's where you're going. I love that. I mean, can you talk a little bit about that, what you mean?
Absolutely. So actually on the site, we have the 11 rules of the rebellion, and the community at Nerd Fitness, we call ourselves the Rebellion. And heavily influenced by Star Wars. And we have 11 rules, and the number one rule is we don't care where you came from. We only care where you're going. And we have readers from all walks of life on Nerd Fitness. I mean, I'm currently talking to a gentleman that's He found Nerd Fitness at 670 pounds.
Jeez.
And
Yeah.
I think already down to, he's closing in on 570, I think. So he's already down about 100 pounds.
That's awesome.
Right direction. We also I also get emails from guys that are like training for the Olympics that happen to also love Nerd Fitness. So, I mean, two completely opposite ends of the spectrum. Some people that are trying to get bigger, some people that are trying to lose a drastic amount of weight, some people that want to run marathons, some people that want to become a powerlifting champion. It doesn't matter where you're starting. It really matters, like, can you be a better person today than you were yesterday? If you're trying to get stronger, can you be a little bit stronger today? If you're trying to get faster, can you run that mile 1 second faster than you did the last time you went running? So it's really looking at yourself and judging yourself based on who you are and where you're going and what you want to do, instead of comparing yourself to other people or ideals that you see on, in magazines or whatever.
Yeah. So one of the things I love about Nerd Fitness, and you're a fantastic writer. If you haven't checked, Steve's written a few guest they've done really well. I'll link to them in the show notes. But what I love about Nerd Fitness is how creative you are with your post. I mean, you have like the Konami Code workout. You have like how to explore your neighborhood, like the Goonies. I mean, I love it because I resonate with that stuff because, yeah, I used the Konami Code as a kid. Goonies was like my favorite movie as a little guy. Like, I actually demanded that my family call me Mikey for like 2 months when I was like 4 years old because I was obsessed with the Goonies. So yeah, where do you get inspiration? I mean, are you just like, you'll be sitting watching a movie and like, hey, I could turn that into a post. I mean, what happens there?
Yeah, seriously, that's kind of how it happens. So actually, there's a perfect example. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I was struggling to think of what I was going to write about for Nerd Fitness. And I was thinking and running through my mind, like, what sort of movie or video game or TV show haven't I covered yet? And generally, I look back and think of like, what were the things that influenced me as a kid? And for me, it was movies like Karate Kid. Like, I was Daniel's son. My mom made me the karate outfit. She even drew with a Sharpie.
Oh, my mom did that too.
On the headband. I can't tell you how many times I've probably practiced the crane kick. So I really look back and think, like, what molded my childhood? And what are some things that people can look back on with nostalgia and say, like, oh, God, I definitely remember that. And that's kind of a really unique way of looking at it. So it's really, a lot of it is the same thing that you might get other sites when it's, yeah, you need to eat better. And yes, you need to focus on building proper habits and sleeping more and eating right. But you can get that anywhere. So I was like, how can I do this in a way that it's going to be really unique and people can come to Nerd Fitness and say, yep, definitely not getting that anywhere else. And that's where these videos that's where these articles based on video games and movies come in. Oh, anyways, the other day I was literally sitting at my computer trying to figure out what the heck I was going to write about. And out of the blue, Oregon Trail popped into my head. The game that I used to play, like in fourth grade, you have to go to like the computer lab and you'd have 45 minutes to try to get from Independence, Missouri out to Oregon. So I wrote 2,000 words on the Oregon Trail because that's something that has always stuck in my mind as a game that I will never, ever forget. So I try to pick things that I've loved or things that have really influenced me from the time I was 2 up until now, and combining it with a way that is also self-improvement or fitness or diet related, that gets people to think about their lives or what they're trying to improve about themselves in a unique way.
Yeah, that's awesome. I read the Oregon Trail post, and yeah, I do remember going to the computer lab on the old Macs and playing the Oregon Trail, and I always died of dysentery. Yeah, you got to watch out for that. So you've worked with I imagine hundreds, if not thousands of people and interacted with them on your site. And then I think you're doing some consulting now or some coaching. What do you think what have you seen as the biggest obstacle that prevents people from taking actions to get into shape, or what stops them from actually reaching their fitness goals?
A couple things, honestly. I think that the first one, and it's the toughest one to overcome, is human nature. By nature, we are creatures of habit. We love to do the same things repeatedly, and the second we try to do something outside of that normal habit, it requires a lot more brain power and effort and willpower than we're used to. So I think a big issue is a lot of people try to do way too much too soon. They will radically change their diet and decide they're going to start working out for an hour and a half every day and go for a walk and sleep an extra hour. And they'll last like 4 days and things will go great. And then they'll either get sick or get stuck at work, or their kid will have to come home early from school for whatever reason. And as soon as one thing goes wrong in that perfect mix that they're trying to build, everything falls apart. So I think a huge issue with a lot of people is they try to do a little too much too soon, and they'd be much better off picking one habit or two habits that are very small but obtainable that they can then focus on. For that, I mean, if you're trying to, let's say you want to go running every day, make it a 5-minute run, and that's it for an entire month. You're going to put on your shoes, you're going to go run for 5 minutes, and it might not seem like very much, but what you're doing is you're actually building the habit of, I can do this, and every day this is something I can build on. And not only that, but if you can tell yourself, okay, I can do this for 5 minutes, as soon as your 5 minutes is up, you're probably going to think, oh, I can go for a little bit longer or a little bit longer. But I think habit building is one thing that a lot of people definitely struggle with. And I see it every year. I see it with every time there's a New Year's resolution post. Or if you walk into any gym, the first 3 days after the New Year's, you can't get to anything in the gym because it's overrun. And then 2 weeks later, there's nobody there because they've already all given up on everything that they've tried to set aside. So I think that's a big one. Secondly, I think a lot of people don't really have a great reason for why they're trying to get healthy. They just say, oh, I should get healthy. Or like, oh, my doctor says maybe I should get healthy. And they keep using the word should, or maybe at some point I should do this. But that great reason set aside that tells them I'm doing this for the right reason, or I'm doing this because of this particular thing. Like, actually, I used to have a Post-it note. Now I actually have a decorative pillow in my apartment that says get busy living or get busy dying on it, from the Shawshank Redemption. The mantra that I've chosen to adopt as far as how I live my life. It's like, look, guys, we only have one shot at this. And I look at that every day, and it makes me think I need to get off my butt and go do something and find a way to improve my life. For some people, it might be the kid that they just had, or because they want to look in the mirror with pride, or whatever it is. But if they don't keep that reason at the front of their mind, they're going to give up at the first sign of adversity. So I think those are probably the two biggest ones. Make sure they have an actual reason to make the changes that they'd like to make. And then two, putting proper habit building systems in place so that they can actually follow through with this stuff instead of giving up after 2 weeks.
Awesome. So what's in store for Nerd Fitness in 2013? What can we see from you?
Oof. All kinds of stuff. Let's see. We had our big Nerd Fitness meeting, and I say big, there's like 3 of us on the Nerd Fitness team these days. Big meeting for what we're going to do in 2013. First and foremost, we are in the process of finally launching this half video game, half fitness program that we're building called Rising Heroes. And it's a concept I've had for years and years and years and years. And finally, about 2.5 years ago, I finally got to the point where I could start building it. But we're combining the addictive nature of World of Warcraft and games like that, or Legend of Zelda, and combining it with reasons that people are going to want to go outside and exercise. So looking at yourself like a fitness character and looking at the world like one giant video game. So that is the big one. We're finally letting people in to our beta test, I think, within the next couple of days, which should be great. And then from there, we can expand. That's a big one. 2, we're going to launch our first, hopefully, it'll be our second iPhone app. I want to make an official Nerd Fitness iPhone app. We just put out our first iPhone app about a month ago based on the paleo diet. It has done incredibly well, and people have been, it's been really responsive, and people have really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to take what I've learned from building that first app and building a second app. And then the third thing, I hope I can get it done this year. It might be next year, but I want to have something called Camp Nerd Fitness, where we have essentially like a giant summer camp for adults, where we'll literally take over a summer camp for a long weekend, and Nerd Fitness readers can fly in and kind of relive the epic adventures of a summer camp while also learning about proper nutrition and fitness, and playing video games at night and scavenger hunts, and kind of allowing people to go back to being a big kid for at least a long weekend, and leave that weekend with all the tools that they need to living a better life. So I want to say those are probably the three big things we're focusing on for 2013.
That's awesome. Camp Nerd Fitness sounds a lot like Camp Nowhere. Did you ever see that movie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that movie was awesome. Well, fantastic. Well, so I got 2 last questions because you are the owner of Nerd Fitness, so I need to ask you these questions. What is your favorite superhero and favorite video game?
Okay, favorite superhero. It's changed recently. So growing up, it was always Superman. Like, I went dressed as Superman for, I think, like 6 Halloweens in a row. And then on like random Tuesdays when I just felt like I needed to be dressed up like Superman. So it was Superman up until really I started Nerd Fitness. And since then it's changed to Captain America. The reason it's changed to Captain America is because I can totally relate to Steve Rogers. Like, he was this skinny, weak dude that really just wanted to help inspire people get better. And So he, obviously changed his life. I don't plan on injecting myself with any sort of serums anytime soon. But he went about inspiring people through his actions, and not, he really just wanted to make the world a better place and inspire those around him to live better. And I was like, hey, that's kind of what I'm doing. Like, I was a skinny, weak guy, and I've taken steps to live better, and now I'm hopefully through my actions are inspiring other people to live better. So Superman was the favorite, but I can relate probably the most to Captain America. Favorite video game? I would have to say it's got to be one of the Legend of Zeldas. Ocarina of Time was pretty fantastic, the one for Nintendo 64, but probably the most memorable would be A Link to the Past for Super Nintendo. I remember actually my mom told me I had to stop playing that game once because I couldn't sleep because I had the dungeon music stuck in my head, and like I'd go to sleep and close my eyes and I'd see the inside of a Zelda dungeon from that game and hear the music, and I think she took it away from me for like a month, and she was like, you should probably stop playing. So probably Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past would have to be my favorite.
Yeah, that was my favorite game too, and I'll still, like, every now and then I'll bring it back up on an emulator.
Absolutely.
Just to play it. Well, Steve, I really appreciate you taking the time. Lots of great information here, and thanks again.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Our guest today was Steve Kam. Steve is the founder and owner of nerdfitness.com. So go check it out. You're not going to be disappointed. Well, that wraps up another edition of the Art of Manliness podcast.